much, John. Next up is Steve Deere. He's a community activist.
Hi, everybody. I guess I don't need to do that. You know, they offered me to speak first, and now I really wish I had. Well, thank you very much for inviting me here today. It's really an honor and a special privilege. I believe that civilization is threatened this century. Woo! And of course, Gandhi said civilization would be a good idea if we ever were to have it. And to the people who will die of poverty and preventable diseases and malnutrition during the brief time that we're gathered here, civilization doesn't exist. To the billions of people who go to bed hungry tonight here on Franklin Street and all around the world, civilization doesn't exist. But I still think humanity and our habitat are worth struggling for, and a civilization that would really be inclusive of all humanity and recognize all people as brothers and sisters. I believe we should fight for a civilization that would welcome and include our newly immigrant brothers and sisters that we heard about from Reverend Mateo. I believe that a real civilization would respect and never take advantage of a community like the Rogers Road community that has been trampled upon for decades, so that we can throw out our solid waste. The fact is that we are depleting our planet's resources and starving and enslaving people by allowing largely unfettered corporate control of our social, economic, and political institutions here and worldwide. Until recently, arguably not much has been done about this in this part of the world. Then came Occupy. Standing here right now, occupying this space as we have done, is one of the best things that we can do. But as we stand here, let's remember that hundreds of people are being processed for their arrests yesterday in Oakland. Yes. Where thousands of people protested, and police there used tear gas, rubber bullets, and beanbag rounds on thousands of ordinary people. I read this morning a post by my new friend Tim Franzen, who's one of the organizers in Atlanta of Occupy Atlanta. I spent a night in jail with Tim in September at the execution of Troy Davis, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. It just makes you feel more naive, and I'd like to think I'm not that naive, but Tim is one of the organizers in Occupy Atlanta, and the police have now been targeting him with arrests. They'll pick him out of a crowd, they'll surround him, or they'll follow. At one time, he was in a car and leaving a demonstration, and police followed him, and a news camera followed the police car miles until they were out of the way, and then they arrested him. And this is what's happening in Atlanta. And Occupy organizers in Charlotte are trying to stop the city from enacting sweeping restrictions on free speech and assembly prior to the Democratic National Convention there. Restrictions that are likely to remain in place. So there's no more important place to be in our community at this moment than here, affirming our human and civil rights. If we do not do so, we will lose them, as the banners and the placards say right here. I have no doubt that the town management and leadership of Chapel Hill are deeply concerned about avoiding any legal problems and embarrassment for the town or themselves over the police assault on the people at the Yates Motor Building. And let us not call it just a raid. It was also an assault. Of course, the only way to get at the truth of why that happened and how it can be avoided in the future is through an independent commission. Anything less is a whitewash. No less than Ron Bogle, the Superior Court judge, a retired Superior Court judge who chairs the Community Policing Advisory Committee, is now asking why Chapel Hill is not accepting the committee's recommendation of pursuing an investigation independently. Any town leader who does not support an independent investigation does not deserve to represent the people of Chapel Hill. Town leaders, please do not tell us about the costs of such an investigation to the town. You should have thought of that before giving the go-ahead. As we just heard, the assault and the fallout from it are helping us to see who really runs our community and what their interests really are.
Yeah.
This is what a police state looks like.
Having said that, I want to say that this, in the end, is not really an us versus them situation. If we allow it to be just about the dreadful mistakes, the possible cover-up or ongoing cover-up, the new attempts to restrict basic rights, then we will miss the point of our own efforts. This town council will be replaced by another. We have to keep our long-term goals in view, which is to say that this situation is really much more about us and who we are. It's about who we are going to be. And for the sake of time, I'm going to skip. I saw Jeff Gilson, I don't know if Jeff is here, posted some really great questions about Occupy on his Facebook page, and I suggest you read them, and I'm going to skip over them. No, he's not here. Well, he's got some good questions, though. And I know that these types of questions about who we are being discussed at the General Assemblies and online. And maybe we won't always agree on that. That's okay about who we are. But I, for one, believe in grassroots organizing for social change, and that it's the most difficult and most important of the work on the spectrum of social activism. It's more important than and needed most urgently above single acts of nonviolent direct action, like civil disobedience, and I've done a lot of 60 times wrist arrest, on the one end of that spectrum, and then litigation and lobbying on the other end in legislatures. Gandhi, King, and everyone whose names are right here at Justice and Peace Plaza were all community organizers, grassroots community organizers. And I suggest that's the path that we at Occupy continue to pursue in new ways and with new commitments. It takes humility and discipline to do grassroots organizing. And we have to meet opponents and people on the fence where they are and bring them along with us if we can. We have to empower those who are with us with the information and capability to educate and mobilize others in our community. We have to wake people up. And we have to sit and listen, even to those who we see in direct opposition, the people I've been talking about. We cannot succeed just by thumping our chests and beating drums, which I have done at Occupy. I'm going to a band rehearsal after this. I love to play the drums, and I have done that. But I did it, I think, with love, I hope. The cognitive linguist George Lakoff. Anybody read George Lakoff? He's worth good interesting person to read. He writes about how the left so often gets its messaging all wrong and turns people away and fails to reach others. He talks about how we need to pay attention to our metaphors. We have to express to our community why we are here today, and to do so by showing how what we value is in common with what ordinary people in our community value. By doing so, Lakoff suggests, we will tap into people's innate sense of empathy that is wired into our brains, but that the corporate polity seeks to rewire out of our brains. Okay, now forgive me if I haven't been critical enough, I'm going to sound pretty critical.